Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to conservation and careful management of the state's forests to make them more resilient and better habitats for wildlife. ChooseWood.com.
So is this kind of like Google for drug research?
Yeah, you could definitely think about it like that. This enables researchers to basically take the results of an experiment and then kind of in an automated way read through essentially all of the research literature that's available on the PubMed library, as well as some new stuff that we're adding as we speak. We've already had some very good feedback from SLU researchers as well as the WashU researchers who actually invented the software a few years ago.
I'm Sarah Fensky. This is St. Louis on the Air. One of the most troubling mysteries of the ongoing coronavirus pandemic involves quote-unquote long haulers. These are people who fight off a COVID-19 infection. They no longer test positive for having the virus, but they continue to suffer a bewildering array of symptoms, often for months on end. Physicians have struggled to explain why or to know how to treat them. Now, a St. Louis biotech startup doesn't have the answers just yet, but it's working on them. And joining us today to share about those efforts and the company's overall mission is Allyson Mayer. She's a computational biologist for PercayAI. Allyson, welcome.
Hi, Sarah. Thanks for having me.
So PercayAI, this startup, is focused on scientific breakthroughs in the realm of drug discovery. How do you do that work?
Yeah, so two of the biggest problems in drug discovery that we're trying to help with is that the drug discovery process is very long, very expensive, and oftentimes it's very difficult to get the right answer on the first shot. And then on the second hand, there's just such a sheer quantity of data out there that we saw this as an opportunity to develop some software tools that could help researchers identify new findings within their research data and then more directly use these patterns to take it to the drug discovery process.
So these are findings that are already out there. You're just figuring out, okay, this could help with this problem?
Yeah, so our software, it is built by incorporating many different knowledge sources, the first of which was by feeding in essentially all of the research literature that's available on the PubMed library, as well as some new stuff that we're adding as we speak. And then this enables researchers to basically take the results of an experiment and then kind of in an automated way read through everything, find these new connections that have maybe sort of been pointed out, but maybe connections that a human wouldn't immediately identify, and then pursue these in their research.
So is this kind of like Google for drug research?
Yeah, you could definitely think about it like that. And just since biology is it's such a different language, there's so much information, it kind of requires a whole different method to really identify the best topic to pursue within your results.
Mm-hmm. I saw a quote you gave where you said, we could solve any problem out there if we could analyze the data properly. You really think that's true for just about any product? The answers are out there. We just need to find, that they're already written and might apply to the problem we're looking at?
I think it's possible. There's definitely a lot of data out there. I mean, I remember when I was in graduate school, the amount of data that I just generated, and I remember thinking that I definitely missed some stuff if I had a better tool to really maximize what I was getting out of my data, or piece it together with someone else's data who maybe had the other half of the problem. We could find out a whole bunch of information that we currently don't know.
So give me an example of this. What's something that PercayAI researched, and were you able to come up with the solution there within the data that you were searching?
Yeah. So something, this is actually now published now. This is from a WashU lab. But one of the things that our software does really well is not only identifying these new connections and new results within your experiment, but also comparing things. So one of the big challenges in drug discovery is, as many people probably know, you don't start out doing work in humans. Most researchers are working in either a dish of cells or a mouse model, and trying to identify something in that actually applies to human biology is a really tricky problem. Nobody wants to develop a drug that works for mice but not for humans. Mm-hmm. So the software was actually able to identify really key biological signatures within this mouse model. It was actually of Crohn's disease. And then by comparing it to some human data that we also had, specifically hone in on the signature in the mouse model that would actually be relevant to study. And that meant the researchers could test that more easily, going back into their mouse model and testing with novel drugs that might be eventually useful for humans.
So you're able to just cut out a lot of wasted time, just cut straight to the quick.
Exactly.
So you're particularly excited right now about what you could do for these COVID-19 long haulers. How would you see this type of software being able to help with that? That feels like a problem where we don't have the solutions within the data yet. Am I wrong about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of unknown on that, and just also based on the fact that this is such an ongoing and emerging problem. So we have a collaboration for this COVID project between PercayAI and some researchers at Washington University. So this was a really good partnership, I think, because WashU not only is a top-class research institute, but also has a lot of is a great medical center with some more clinical data that they're collecting from COVID patients. So combining that with the software that PercayAI has, an ability to compare things, knit data together, we are working on trying to piece together as much information as possible to find new insights on COVID, and then maybe match these up with some drugs that could be helpful for the COVID long haulers.
So are you seeing promising things? I know it's still the beginning of this particular effort.
Yeah, we're still in the middle of analyzing everything, but I am really hopeful based on the amount of data that we have and the stuff that we're about to incorporate. I think there's a good chance that we could identify at least some promising drug candidates that maybe have not yet been identified as potential therapies, and then get into some testing to see whether those would make sense to pursue.
So what kind of timeline are you on for that, the Long Haulers project?
We are hoping to have some results by the summer. Still in the middle of analyzing, so hope maybe we'll be surprised, or maybe we'll take it into a different direction that might take a bit longer. But I think by the summer we'll have an idea of whether we have some targets to pursue.
Well, it's great to see people paying attention to that. I know that's such a troubling problem, and the people who suffer from it, they feel like nobody's doing anything about it. You're saying, hey, we're going to put this computational genius to bear on this. We're going to find something here.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's in association with Washington University. I understand you guys also have a partnership going forward with St. Louis University. You announced last week that you're going to train scholars there to use your software in their own research. How do you see them applying this? Would it be different than maybe a professional would be doing?
Yeah, I think our software is it's very flexible. We think of this as, we call it an augmented intelligence software. So it does a lot of things to make the research process faster for the scientists, but it could be used in a lot of different ways, including sort of like for this COVID project where we're trying to knit together tons of different data sets, or it could be even used on just one simple experiment trying to find the best results. So I think it will be definitely useful for SLU researchers. We've already had some very good feedback from SLU researchers, as well as the WashU researchers who have already been using the software, and already some publications from the WashU side. So I'd expect lots of great findings from SLU as well.
So for the business model of PercayAI, are you selling the software or you're selling the insights that you're able to put together from using it?
Yeah, so our software is available for use. That can be purchased as a software by a company or an academic group. But we are also using it as internally for our own R&D projects and for collaborations with other researchers. So in that respect, we are doing some of the work ourselves and kind of providing the insights as well.
So you've made me curious about this company, PercayAI. How many of you are there at this point?
I think we've got 10 of us, but that's a little misleading because we have such strong collaborations with other groups that are helping with the development of this, like our software engineers. And then we're also still very closely knitted with the WashU researchers who actually invented the software a few years ago.
Okay. Now, I know for you got your PhD from WashU. This was in 2018. You were doing research focused on cardiovascular and metabolic systems. How did you go from there to the work you're doing with PercayAI?
Yeah. So, my PhD was very much focused more on the bench science. But towards the end of my PhD, I was doing a lot more heavy data processing, trying to make sense of just massive amounts of data. So that got me very interested in taking it a bit more that direction. And then it was really something that I saw as one of the biggest needs in research is making sure that the findings that people come up with are maximally used to turn those into discoveries and cures. So that's how I decided that I wanted to kind of go that route.
So the company's mission, it sounds like this was something you were moving towards. You saw the need for this in the work you were doing.
Yeah, I met with some of the people from the company, and it just was a really good fit of what I believed I wanted to do to help in the world, and then what they also were working on.
So the company is based in the Cortex district that's there on the edge of the Central West End. I imagine things are a little different with COVID right now, but that seems like such a hub for innovation. Do you feel like you're building off that energy in that district?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So we're all working from home still until we have a vaccine. But it was a really great place to work, just right next door to all sorts of other people doing a lot of other biotech or tech startups, right between SLU and WashU. So there's tons of energy, and it also made it just so easy to collaborate with other people in the area to just do a lot more than we'd be able to do ourselves.
So you're just itching to get back to the office? Is that
yeah.
Everybody's ready to?
We're all really itching for that.
I imagine this is work you probably can do remotely, but you just can't replace that collaboration you get in person.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, we're lucky that we can do everything remotely, but it's just not quite the same as if we were next to each other.
Well, I hope for your sake that vaccine will be coming to your arms soon. And I hope in the meantime you guys can continue this great research that you're doing and find some answers for these long haulers. So, Allyson Mayer, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you. This has been great.
This is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio, 90.7 KWMU. If you learned something new from today's episode, consider leaving us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the easiest way to help people discover our show. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association. Missouri produces wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details on the variety of products made in the state are at choosewood.com.